Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. I want to welcome everyone that is joining us today. And I also want to remind everyone that if you would like to speak to me or Karen today, yes, Diane, it's Tuesday. If you would like to speak to us, please make sure that you go to our Unapologetically Me Facebook page. We do have a page where you can put your comments there. You can ask questions, and this way we can see them and we can talk back to you. Okay, so it's Tuesday over here on the East Coast. Oh my God, it is raining. It is raining. Can you believe that? But this is my favorite time of the year. I love fall. I love the colors changing, and hello to everyone that's coming in and joining us. I just love it all. So this is my favorite time of the year. But we have a great guest today. I cannot wait for you to meet this woman. She is going to be talking about a topic and a subject that we really don't talk about that much, which is diversity and inclusion. Some of you may not even know what that means. So Karen is going to be explaining a little more about what it is that she does, what that actual topic is. And I think it's important for us to talk about things that basically people don't want to talk about. They need to be talked about. So without further ado, everyone, please help me welcome my guest to the studio, Karen Spencer Kelly. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Felicia. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So Karen is the founder and a principal of KESK Consulting. So Karen and we met on LinkedIn. So for those of you who do not believe that LinkedIn works, it actually works. As a matter of fact, Karen and I was talking before we came out live about LinkedIn and how we have been really successful with connecting with people on there. We were saying Facebook is good for family and friends, but I believe that if you want to get a significant connection, that LinkedIn is your way to go. So let's get started with this fabulous show. So Karen, tell us a little bit about KESK Consulting. And before that, what were you doing?
Happy to, Felicia. Thank you so much for having me. I think that your program is wonderful. I think that the PWNC is fantastic. And I think that your efforts to improve the lives of business women is fantastic. And I think
Thank
it's
you.
important, and I think it needs to be done on a regular basis at multiple levels. And I cannot tell you how much I personally appreciate small business attention, minority business attention. It's the kind of thing that people sort of mention all the time, but don't necessarily follow up on or follow up with those entities. So this is the kind of program that really helps, and introducing us to each other, making the connections we can support each other and get ourselves more into the mainstream. But this is exactly the way to start, and I really appreciate it.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
you are welcome. I am still a licensed attorney, but I was a trial attorney for about over 25 years. And I had my own practice, female-owned law firm, and we were civil litigators, defense attorneys. So I tried cases. And then for a while, I went into municipal finance, and I was a bond lawyer for a while. And then I went into state government, and I was chief counsel for the treasurer of Pennsylvania. And in all of those phases of my professional life as an African American woman, I had experiences with diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging, all of which are topics that I address currently in my practice. And the way that I came to, as a matter of fact, develop this practice was I left the government
Mhm.
and went to work for a majority firm. And in my world in the majority firm, which was very different from my owning my own practice, I realized how many people in the regular practice of law, and I can sort of put that in quotes, regular practice of law, didn't really talk about diversity, inclusion, or equity. And they basically ignored minority firms. They ignored females. There was not a lot of attention paid to different firms that brought those talents to the table. And I thought, this is time to have a conversation. And with my personal experience, again, as a lawyer and as I had my practice, my firm was often the outside counsel to the government entity, and we would partner with a majority firm. So we would work with the majority firms. And I can tell you stories about how sometimes we were treated fairly and other times they would completely disregard us and we would just be a name on a piece of paper. And we'd find out later that a piece of work had been bid and we didn't even know we were being included on the bid and things like that. So there was a whole range of experience that we had, but very little of which we felt that we controlled. So I get to this point in my career, I realize I've been a trial lawyer, I've been a finance lawyer, I've been in the government. Let me see what else I can do that really matters. And what matters to me is people taking this conversation about diversity, inclusion seriously, and implementing it in the business world. I think we were talking, Felicia, just earlier about people not necessarily understanding what diversity and inclusion means. And there's this great quote, diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance.
I love it.
Right. So we can be at the table, but unless someone is asking our opinion, it doesn't matter that we're at the table. It's got to go beyond just being numbers in a chart. One of the things that I do in my practice at KESK Consulting is audit organizations. I can come in and take a look and say, okay, you've got X percentage of African-American employees, you've got X percentage of Latinx employees, but I don't stop there. I say, all right, that's wonderful that you have those numbers, or in some cases, not so wonderful that you have those numbers. But the idea is, where did those numbers lie? I mean, I had one client who was ecstatic that it had a large percentage of Latinx employees. And I said, that's terrific in terms of a balance sheet, but where are they all employed? Well, they were all in the custodial areas. And I said, you need them in leadership. You need us in leadership. You need us to be in positions where we actually make decisions, where we are seen as authority, where we are seen as being responsible and responsive. And that takes people to, from necessarily starting at an organization where they could be in a opening level, a beginning level kind of position, but to make sure that they've got the ability to build into a higher level of position so that they can learn about the organization. People can see the trajectory of this person go forward, and that can inspire other people who are either members of that particular cohort or of other minority populations. They can feel inspired to rise up as well. So it's a matter of acknowledging, what do you have? How is it laid out? What's the plan to get people more involved? And what is the plan of raising them up in the organization if the organization is committed to making this idea of diversity inclusion a reality?
Right.
And I can, Felicia, I can keep going if you know, but the one thing I really do want to say that's very important. I find that when I come into organizations, there can be conversation about, well, we believe in diversity and we believe in inclusion. And it's a lot of talk. It's not a lot of action. They'll talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. Unless I find that an organization has the leadership that is committed to this particular action, the action won't take root. It won't take hold. People in the organization have to see that there is the authority that is behind this movement. And if the leadership doesn't not just voice it at the beginning, like Karen's coming on board and she's going to help us figure out these various parts of our employment arrangement. If they start at the beginning and say that and then they disappear, well, then I consequently can disappear as well. People will say, well, she's not that important because she's not seen with the leadership or she's not making decisions on behalf of leadership. And by the way, we don't see anybody moving up in the organization anyway, even though things can be going on. If the leadership doesn't actively reflect that development, the organization may fail. And the biggest problem, Felicia, I think when organizations fail at diversity and inclusion efforts is that people then get to say, well, we told you it wouldn't work.
Right.
We gave this a shot and we gave this a try, which they really didn't give it a try because they didn't follow all the instructions that I was trying to give them about how to make this work.
Right.
And then they'll say it didn't work, and therefore, why are we going to bother and try this at all? Why are we
Right.
going to do this at all? And that's such a fail. That is just the wrong way to look at it. It's the wrong way to execute it. So it needs to be taken from the very beginning at a serious level by the leadership, and then all levels of the organization need to be reminded on a regular basis about the importance of diversity and inclusion. And I know that another example of how important it is for people to be aware of it is anytime there's a hiring decision, there needs to be people involved in the process who've got their eyes open for a diverse population of qualified candidates.
Mm-hmm.
And I say qualified candidates because, again, what can happen is people will get the wrong message. The hiring partners or hiring associates will get the wrong message, and they'll think, oh, we just need to get people who are diverse.
Right.
And if we get people who are diverse, then that will satisfy leadership and everyone will be happy. Well, no, that's not going to work, because if the people we're considering aren't qualified and the people that we consider and bring in fail, again, because they're not supported, because they weren't properly researched, because they weren't given what they needed to succeed, then again, people will turn around and say, we tried it and it didn't work. See, we told you
Right.
it wouldn't work. And it's like, no, it's got to be this thoughtful identifying what the need is and then meeting that need with qualified candidates from whom we can select. And I'm talking about the perfect world, Felicia, because as we know, it can be a challenge to get these pipelines of people in place. But it's a matter, and it's a matter of effort. I mean, it really
Right.
takes a lot of work. And so that gets me back to the leadership needing to be committed to the effort, committed to this process, because it's not going to be a one and done. It's not going to be a series of interviews and we'll be finished. It's got to be an ongoing process of everyone keeping their eye on it all of the time, and every opportunity where we can make the right move in the right direction, we take that step,
Mm-hmm.
because eventually we will be successful. And once we're successful, that helps the entire organization.
Right.
The other thing I wanted just to say about diversity and inclusion is what we know from McKinsey studies, Harvard studies, Wellesley studies, University of Pennsylvania studies. If we have a diverse group of people
Mm-hmm.
making decisions and everything else being equal, again, we've got qualified people at the table. If we have a diverse group of voices, we have better productivity, we have better conductivity, we have more creativity, we have people who will generate a better product, better services, and better production overall than if they are all coming from the same background or all coming from the same section of society. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing that we absolutely have established. So it's a matter of, okay, we know that we come out economically better if we have this diverse population. So it's not just the touchy-feely kumbaya, let's all get together and have a
Right.
different world. It's that we really will have a better economic output. There is a return on investment in
Mm-hmm.
terms of this effort. So it's important for people to be aware of that as well. So it's one of the things that I pitch to people to say, I hope you know that in doing this, you really are doing something that's going to help your organization ultimately in terms of how it's going to produce and be a better moneymaker. It's going to be better in terms of making money, better in terms of your use of your time and your employees' use of their time. And just as a personal concern of mine,
Mm-hmm.
someone had not confronted me on this the other day, but had sort of just raised the issue about being a consultant and is it worth my time and is it worth my effort? And I thought, it really is, because I know I just gave the business case for why we want a diverse group of people at work, but I do like this idea of what we do at business being transferred to what happens in our personal lives.
Mm-hmm.
so that when we go to work, when we work with a diverse group of people and we really work with them, we realize that we can live with a diverse group of people,
Right.
and that's productive, that's healthful, that's positive for society. So I do have a bigger picture about what I would like this whole work, that this effort that I'm a part of. I want it to be more. I want it to be more than just the return on investment. I want people to feel like this is something that will enhance not just my work life, but my personal life as well. Because part of the reason, like you were saying, the topic of diversity and
Hmm.
inclusion, it's so important now since the murder of George Floyd. A
Yes.
lot of people we're talking about these incredibly serious, important issues,
Hmm.
and people need to be able to have a context for them. And I think the context can come from work,
Hmm.
or it can come from our personal lives. But it just happens that I focus on the work aspect of it. But it's so important that we're able to have the um, have the language to have the conversations. A lot of times people don't want to have the conversation about
Right.
diversity because they're not sure what to say.
Exactly.
Like, how do I refer to you? Well, you
Right.
ask people, how would you like to be referred to?
Exactly.
What makes you the most right? So, and to have people know that if you're coming at the conversation as people of goodwill who would like to get to a positive result, then all questions can be asked. I mean, we can say it in such a way that it's, I really would like to know, Felicia, tell me about your background so that I can better address you and have you, have you understand. I Part of one of the trainings that I do is
Mhm.
I ask a series of questions which necessarily will help people see unconscious biases that they have,
Right.
and the beautiful thing about unconscious biases is that we don't know that we have them. They
Right.
are unconscious.
They're
So
unconscious.
we don't know. And what we need in order to get to unconscious biases is to have other people point them out to us.
Right.
I mean, to have a colleague be able to say, be comfortable enough to say, well, when you mentioned this person, you refer
Right.
to them as those people.
Right. But
Those,
it's, not to interrupt what you're saying, Karen,
mm,
but you have such a great point there. First of all, people have to be comfortable with the conversation. Okay. Comfortable enough and raw enough. I'll give you an example. My husband and I, the other night, my husband is Jewish. Okay. And the other night we was watching, I don't know if it was one of those musical programs or something like that, but there was rappers up there, and they kept saying nigga this, nigga that, nigga that. I told my husband I hate that word. It is such a strong derogatory word. And the funny part is because these rappers are not thinking about it, because to them saying nigga is like saying brother or saying sister. Whereas if you see someone that doesn't look like you out there repeating these words, now all of a sudden it's a problem. It's racist. Why can this person say the N word and you can't have this person say the N word? Because then it's problems. And another thing that you had said, there was so many aha moments that when you were talking came up. I remember, and I'm not going to call out this organization, where many years ago, I was the only person of color. It was no Hispanics, there was no Asians, there was no Philippines in middle management. I was the only one. I'm sitting in a room with middle management, 30 of us, and it was only me that looked like me. The other ones, as you said, there was some middle management, but they were janitorial, or they were the kitchen, or they were housekeeping, or different things like that. So it is true. I think it is very important to understand each other, that we have these conversations, because yes, they may be uncomfortable and maybe people don't want to hear them, but guess what? This is life. This is what's going on. This is life. And I just want to remind, before I let you start up again, for those of you who would like to ask Karen questions, remember, go to our Unapologetically Me page. Okay.
great. No, thank you. And thank you, Felicia, for saying that.
Mhm.
It's true. And we have to have these conversations, and they are by their nature uncomfortable.
Yes.
I say when I teach my basic diversity and inclusion class, I said, we start with diversity, meaning there's something different between you and me.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's something different, it can by its nature be uncomfortable.
Yes.
I'm distinguishing us, which doesn't, which can sort of cause issues in and of itself.
Right.
But unless we have that conversation, the change isn't going to come about.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen. And it takes people, and I'll say like you and I, who are willing to have these conversations as people of goodwill, to run the risk and share. I've had really very well-intentioned white friends ask me post George Floyd, like, what can I do? And I said, this is going to sound really simple, but I want you the next time, no one's at cocktail parties anymore.
Right.
But if they're at any kind of social gathering, I want you as the white person to say, what do you think about this?
Right.
I mean, I don't want the responsibility to be on me all the time as the Black person in the room. I'll take it, but
Right.
it can wear a little thin.
Exactly.
I said, and it's important for this conversation to come out of you as a white person, because you raising the question, Joan,
Right.
raises it differently than if I raise the question, Karen.
Right.
And it will impact people differently. It will generate a different feeling in them. It could give them a certain level of comfort or safety where they feel that they really can have this conversation.
Right.
I said, so I'm asking you to be, Joan, to be responsible and run the risk. I mean, we all have to take chances in this era right now with our conversation and what we need to say. Emotions are so deep and so strong, and there's no way that the positions that people maintain change without a conversation. I have one session that I teach that is specifically about having the difficult conversations. And what's interesting about it, Felicia, is in crafting this class, I had to think about, what can I talk about that people will not automatically run from.
Right. Right.
It's so interesting to try to bring up a topic that people will feel uncomfortable enough to realize, okay, this is agitating me a little bit, but not so uncomfortable that they think I just don't want to talk about this at all. It's
right.
It's a tricky middle ground to strike.
Right.
But again, if we don't start the conversation, then we're in trouble, because we'll never have the change, and we need to have the change. And
we definitely need to have the change. You know, I always say, my question to everyone is, put yourself in someone else's shoes for a day that don't look like you.
Right.
Like one of the conversations, because my husband and I, we have these conversations because, of course, we know the Jewish history and we also know the African American history. So one of the conversations that him and I have, I said to him, I said, you know what, think about this. You, as a white person, can go anywhere in this world and no one would know you were Jewish unless you told them. Me, I don't have that luxury. They see me, I'm instantly judged by the way that I look. And then it's like, okay, well, let's get to know you. Once you get to know, oh, yeah, well, you don't know I have 4 degrees from 4 different colleges. You don't know that I run my own business. You don't know that blah, blah, XY, I'm married, I have a family. You know, you don't know these things about me because you did not take the time to get to know who I was. I was instantly judged by the way that I look. And I'm seeing more and more that inclusion and diversity is coming up in organizations that normally it did not come up in because it was taboo. But these things have to be addressed. I mean, you know, I always say, we don't want anything more. We're not asking for anything more than anyone else is getting, which is the treatment to be looked upon as a human being, to be looked upon as someone that's educated, to be looked upon as someone who can offer gifts to any organization. That's all we're asking for. But first, these conversations have to be had.
That's true. Right. And I know, like you were saying, in terms of people looking at us and making up their minds right away, that's something as a trial lawyer that I dealt with all the time. I mean, more often times than I can tell you, I would be in the waiting room waiting to take a deposition, and they would presume that I was the court stenographer.
Wow.
And I'd say, no, I'm the lawyer. I'm the one who's going to be asking the questions, or to come in the courtroom. And I knew that
Hmm.
they were looking at me, judging me long before I opened my mouth.
Right.
And what was frustrating about that was it made me behave in certain ways that not necessarily aren't the way that I would comport myself regardless.
Hmm.
But it makes me think, okay, I was happy to put on this necklace this morning. And I thought,
Right.
if I were going to court, I probably wouldn't wear it because
Right.
I don't want them to look at my necklace and make a presumption about me. I mean,
Right.
I have to, so my jewelry has to look a certain way. My hair has to be pulled back a certain way. And I wager to say that a lot of people in the world don't have to jump through those hoops before they're allowed to be presented to the world.
Right.
So it's a matter of us compromising ourselves to make sure we're not bumping into people in their space, to make sure that we get the space that we deserve and which we're entitled to, as
Hmm.
being members of this community and members of the space that we actually are qualified and deserve to fill.
Right, right.
So
And it's funny that you say that because I can relate to that. Sometimes being the only person that looks like me in the room and having to be a certain way
yeah,
because, you're looking at everybody, okay, well, are they waiting for me to act like the stereotype that
right,
you feel that Black people are? Are they waiting for me to start slanging and being loud and all this stuff, all these stereotypes that are placed
right,
upon us? Are they waiting for that? So I can
right,
understand when you say that, even to the jewelry that you wear. Or if I go into a place and my hair is braided up, what is the perception that you're going to get of me? Are you going to see Felicia with braids, or are you going to see Felicia the businesswoman? So there are just so many stereotypes, and with the inclusion and diversity, we have so much more to learn,
we do.
about one another, about just in general each other. And like you said, it starts with a conversation. And yes, it's going to be a conversation that's going to make some uncomfortable, but guess what? It is an uncomfortable
It
conversation.
is.
And it has to be, because in order for us to change and for this world to be better for the millennials, the generation X's and Z's and Y's and all these other generations, it has to start with a conversation. And then we
Exactly.
have to go from there. But Karen, believe it or not,
We're
we're
out of
running,
time.
I know we're running up, but I would love to have you back, so we can talk more about this because
Right.
it is an important conversation.
It
And
is.
I think that people like myself who have the platform, who are able to bring people like you to bring it
Mm,
for. And I love the fact that you're a woman lawyer and you're great at what you do. And
thank
I
you.
think it's important. I think it's important. It's not a conversation that can only be held in a half an hour. It's a conversation that is continuous. And like you said, when you know better, you do better.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Exactly.
so let us know how people can get in contact with you and all that good information there. And while you're doing that, I'm going to be putting up your website.
Okay, terrific. You can reach me at kskelly.esq@gmail.com or at karenspencerkelly.com. Please feel free to reach out with any questions or concerns or things that you would like to discuss. I'm happy to continue the conversation. And I'm so happy, Felicia, that I was able to be here today. Thank you so much for making the connection on LinkedIn. I really appreciate it. It's wonderful to get to know you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And the same thing for you. I think it's wonderful when you make new connections and, people are just in line what it is that you do. Not only do we have a women's organization, but we're all about empowerment. You got a nice message from Diane.
Yeah,
Karen,
thank
this
you.
was such an incredible conversation, and you presented it with class in such a professional manner.
Thank you,
Yes.
Diane. Thank you.
Yes. Diane is one of our biggest fans here. She runs an organization called Tiara of Hope. And what they do, they go all around the world and they give tiaras to women, men, those that are suffering with whatever it is, challenging times in their life. She's housed in Florida, and she has been such a blessing to this platform. She has formed some collaborations. She has formed some business partners. So she is incredibly a blessing to this platform. So Diane, I want to thank you as always for
Thank you,
being here.
Diane.
So before we go, I just want to mention a couple of events that are coming up. So, Karen, you'll be here with me. Of course, you're not going anywhere yet.
Right.
So everyone, I just want to mention real quickly, we have next Monday, actually, so less than a week from today. Don't forget, we have our Philadelphia Med Week, which is the Minority Enterprise Development Week. That happens once a year. The host is the city of Philadelphia. So we have quite a few that are involved. We have the Chamber of Commerce, all the commerce are involved, PGW, the airport, hotel and management. We have so many organizations that are doing something for this week. These are free events. So please take advantage of them. I am doing an event with a woman, Michelle Snow of the Michelle Snow Network, and we are going to be bringing some powerful speakers to you, telling you about how they thrive during COVID in their business, and they are able to continue to thrive, excuse me. So make sure that you sign up for that. I will put the comments in after the broadcast is over so you guys can go and register. Again, that's free. And if you're looking to build your business, it will be a great tool there. Next, I want to mention the Small Business Expo that's coming up on October 6th, which is next Wednesday. That's going to be at the Warner Maker building in the Crystal Tea Room. They are making every effort to make sure that you are safe if you decide to come out. That is also a free event as well. We're participants. So if you're in the area, stop by and say hello to us. And last but not least, I am going to be a guest speaker for a Women's Power Luncheon. That is going to be next Friday, October the 8th. It's going to be held at Villaggio, I can never pronounce that, sorry, restaurant in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's headed up by Eleanor of Business Excellence. She has these twice a year. It's a powerful group that comes together. You have some of the best South New Jersey businesswomen that come. We have a great time. I'll be doing the speaking, but there's giveaways and there's vendors and, all kinds of things that are happening. Great connections to be made. And last but not least, I mentioned last week that we have been blessed to be coming up with an international podcast. The podcast will be starting in November. I'm very excited. I'll give you guys exactly the date of when we'll be starting. We're going to be in 160 countries, if you can believe that.
Wow.
47 different languages. And we're going to be on every platform, Voice America Mobile, Apple iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Overcast, and Player FM. Some of these, I don't even know who they are, but I'm glad we're going to be on them. So, Karen, back to you. I just want to say that thank you for being here. Thank you, Diane. Thank you for being here. Again, I plan on having you back because it's important that we continue this conversation and we make people more aware of diversity and inclusion, because a lot of people don't know what it is and they don't understand it. So we need for the understanding to be there. So do you have any last words before we go?
Just, I want to encourage you, Felicia, and all of your blog attendees to stay in contact and support each other and love each other. Be good stewards for each other. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Okay, Diane, I'm going to go say goodbye to everybody. So hold on a moment. Okay, everyone, another great show, another great guest. I hope you guys were able to get some great information. It's a little bit of insight into diversity and inclusion, especially if you hear it all the time, you didn't understand what's going on. But these are conversations, again, that Karen and I said. They're uncomfortable to have, yes, but it is necessary to have. So make sure you reach out to her. Again, will make sure I put up her contact information so you can contact her, and just be mindful in the workplace, in your organization, especially to those that may not look like you. Just be mindful. Be mindful. Again, have those honest conversations. Talk to them. We don't bite. We don't bite. Just have that conversation. So on that note, thank you again for joining us today. We'll be back next Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with another great guest. Have a wonderful day and week, everybody. Bye-bye now.